Well, Marcia, thank you for joining us. We certainly appreciate the time. Deepwater Horizon certainly added to the lexicon, if you will, of geoscience all over the world. Your role at the time, you're with the U.S. Geological Survey. If you would tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I was director of the USGS at the time. Secretary Salazar, who was my boss, felt that of all the directors of the various agencies under his purview at Interior, I was perhaps best suited to go to Houston and work closely with BP because of my work with autonomous underwater vehicles, with remotely operated vehicles, and with simply deep sea awareness.
So how do you get your arms around all that was going on? And you have to make decisions very rapidly, right?
I fell back on what I knew best, and that is science. This is an unprecedented situation. It's a blowout of unknown magnitude happening a mile deep in the ocean. It's dark down there. No one's ever brought a well that deep under control. We started throwing out various science that we could use to help understand what the situation was in the deep sea, particularly what can be our no regrets actions. What would we do first? What would we do second? And what if it succeeds can be our path of best success to controlling the well.
What did we discover new from such a catastrophic event that can be applicable to tomorrow and hopefully dealing with a situation like this even more effectively?
One of the things we learned was, first of all, the bottomless generosity of the scientific community to drop everything they were doing to want to help. Everyone knew that this was an environmental disaster of mammoth proportion and consequences, and everyone was willing to drop everything they were doing to help. So that was important. We also learned that people understood the importance of pulling together interdisciplinary teams that had never worked together before, that could work together in unconventional ways to understand the cascade of consequences, and that was very important. And I think this was the first major disaster where it was very clear that we saw three fundamentally different kinds of science at work. There was the actionable science, where science had to deliver on incredibly impossible timescales. Actionable science to decision makers, where the decision maker understood what the science meant to the decision and saw a clear path forward with uncertainties. A different kind of science, which was the strategic science, the science that was longer term with a whole bunch of hypotheticals, but the kind of science where you still had time to intervene to prevent that cascade of consequences, but it had huge ramifications for the long-term health of the ecosystem and the people and the economy. And also opportunistic science. It's not necessarily going to help us stop the oil spill, and it's not necessarily going to help us fix the problem for the people who are displaced in terms of their jobs by the oil, but we're going to learn a lot that might help us in the future. And we learned from those three different types that I think for the future, distinguishing them to the press is very important.
Do you think a situation like this amplified the role of science to not only deal with the situation here and now, but again, down the road to
Absolutely.
Provide answers?
Absolutely. We took the lessons learned and we applied them to Superstorm Sandy. And we did a much better job with Superstorm Sandy.
I'm looking forward to the address this afternoon. We certainly appreciate your time today, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. This has been fun.